Hello everybody, and welcome to the final video in the trilogy of videos for my first impressions of Strixhaven. In this video, I'm going to be doing what I did in parts 1 and 2. I'm going to be looking at the cards for the very first time and just giving my initial thoughts on them. If you want to find parts 1 and 2 where I cover the commons and then the uncommons respectively, those are posted onto my YouTube channel already. But today we're going to be covering the mythics and rares, grouping them together. Those cards are often the most wacky and the most wild, so I'm looking forward to reading them, seeing how they look. Before I dive in, though, I do want to remind you that if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment in the comment section down below with your questions, thoughts, feedback, what you think of the cards for Strixhaven, and also you can click that little notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. All of that stuff is free. But if you would like to support my content monetarily and gain access to a more structured card-by-card grade spreadsheet where you can see me give all of the cards a letter grade and you can kind of look at how the cards compare to one another in that way, you can check out the Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas, and patrons can gain access to my card-by-card grade spreadsheet and support my content at the same time, so it's a real win-win situation. But let's dive on in. So, Mascot Exhibition. So you make a 2/1, a 3/2, and a 4/4. That's 7/6, 9/6. That's like a 9/7 worth of stats for 7 mana spread across 3 bodies. And it's a lesson, so you can get it. I like that. Thanks, Doc Roughness. I'm glad you enjoy it. But Mascot Exhibition seems pretty good to me. 7 mana is a lot, but the fact that you can tutor this up with your learn cards whenever you kind of need it seems pretty good to me. Making 3 creatures for 1 card is generally pretty strong, especially because some of it has flying. Seems good. I wish it made a shard token. That would be a little bit more flavorful, but I understand why they can't make a 0/0 shard. You'd run out of text. Pretty good. Wandering Archaic. When they cast... Oh. So you get to copy their spell automatically? Unless they pay 2. So it's just an automatic copy, and it's a 5 mana 4/4. What's the backside? 3 mana. Top 5. Land card and or instant or sorcery. So you can draw 2. And each player gains 3. Oh, it's in each player. So the backside's pretty bad. Yeah, the backside's pretty bad. But the front side's pretty good because it's a 5 mana 4/4 that makes all of their like stuff cost 2 extra because they don't want you copying them for free. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Yeah, it seems pretty efficient, yeah. It's only opponents casting spells, so you can't just like go off yourself, but you can really shut down opponents if they can't just kill it and pay the extra 2. Especially because some decks have really expensive instants and sorceries, like the red-blue decks have some really big ones, so they're going to have to pay like 10 mana instead of 8, and that could often shut them down. It's a pretty good card. Getting on to some colored cards. Your Academic Probation. I'm just reading it. I don't think I need to read it out loud because folks know how to read the cards, but choose 1. Okay, that's important. Oh, that's not great. It is a lesson, so that's good to know. But I don't like the fact that it's so temporary. It's kind of like the one that turns things into a 1/1 frog or 4/4 octopus for a turn. It's just so fleeting. It's like a 1-turn tap effect. I don't love it. I don't think it's really a high pick. Devastating Mastery. So quad white. You can pay only 4 white if you want. The opponent chooses 2 non-land permanents they control and returns them to their owner's hand. And then you destroy all non-land permanents. So they get to save their creatures if you don't pay the 2 white, the extra 2 white, if you don't pay the extra 2 white. So, but other than that, it's a 6 mana Planar Cleansing. Planar Cleansing has been decent in the draft in the past. I think this could be a pretty nice card. 1 second, but there we go. Elite, but this card's probably not still. It's hard to get value out of these cards sometimes because they're symmetrical. So you kind of have to like play around because your opponent doesn't know they're coming and you do. So you can like not play creatures, but it is very expensive and hard to cast. Spellbinder. I like Paulo Vitor Damarosa World Champion card. That's pretty neat. 3/1 flyer for 3, already pretty decent. And then you can exile it, and it costs 2 more to cast. So And even if the Spellbinder dies, that happens. That's just pretty nice. Shuts down some of their removal spells or the creature they wanted to play on curve. Non-land, yeah, so you can exile creatures. That's pretty good. I like that card. Pretty powerful. Definitely could see first picking that. Leonin Lightscribe. So it gives all your creatures +1/+1. It feels like you're going to be able to double spell relatively frequently. And if you give all your creatures +2/+2 already attached to a body, this card seems really good. Really good. Because, like, every time you cast, like, a learn card that's a non-creature, you can get, like, a... You can get a card from your sideboard, a lesson that's a non-creature as well, and then you get to do it twice. Okay, Mavinda Student's Advocate. Oh, I like how they're putting their wing around the person. I like it. 3 mana, 2/3 flyer, already good. You may cast target instant or sorcery from your graveyard this turn. If it doesn't target a creature you control, it costs 8 more to cast this way. So you're not technically not allowed to do it, but you kind of get punished if you don't do it that way. If that spell we put into the graveyard, exile it instead. Activate only once each turn. So it's really good with fight spells. Because it doesn't have to only target creatures you control. So you can target your creature and their creature. It works well with pump spells, fight spells. Notably, you can do it on their turn. Whoa! Lacrimosis, gifting 2 subs. Thank you so much. Welcome in Lob Toast and Federal 570. That's very generous of you, Lacrimosis. I really appreciate that. Oh! I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So with Mavinda, you can cast stuff on your opponent's turn. So if you have a bounce spell, you can bounce your own creature in response to a removal spell. Doesn't target. Or a pump spell on your creature during your opponent's turn. So that card seems actually way better now. The more I look at it, because you can cast stuff during your opponent's turn. And during your turn. It has to be an instant, but it works with combat tricks pretty well. I like Mavinda. I can easily first pick this card. Semester's End. Okay, you exile any number of target creatures you control. Return them. They enter with a counter. Okay, so it's like a 4 mana put a counter on all of your creatures. We've seen a card like this before, and it can protect them from removal. But they do come back at the next end step. It's not great. It's like a card from Throne of Eldraine that put a counter on all of your creatures for 4 mana, and that card was okay. But this one you can't like top deck it, play it, attack them. You have to like stall, so it's a little bit worse, I think. And that one had the ability to give vigilance or something like that. Silver Flame Ritual, I think it was called. Sparring Regimen. Oh, that is good flavor. I love that, Lacrimosis. Good way to point that out. Yeah. They leave and then they come back to campus. They're a little bit bigger and stronger. That makes a lot of sense. Sparring Regimen. 3 mana. Enters battlefield. Learn. Is an enchantment. Okay. Whenever you attack, put a counter on target attacking creature and untap it. Okay, so it doesn't buff all your creatures, but it buffs one of your creatures. That's really good. So it's a 3 mana card that kind of replaces itself a lot of the time. And then every time you attack, you can put a counter onto the creature and essentially give it vigilance. That's really nice. I like it because it's just like growing your creature every turn makes attacks really nice, and it replaces itself a lot of the time. That seems quite good. Learn. You do want to. It works really well if you can learn into a token too, especially like the 2/1 flyer token. Pretty nice because then it just starts growing and growing. Strict Proctor. 2 mana, 1/3 flyer, already kind of decent. Permanent entering the battlefield. It counter the triggered ability. So it's like a hate bear. Probably not like too good in draft other than as a 2 mana, 1/3 flyer. Because it's hard to like build your deck to be not doing this and to match up against a deck where your opponent's doing that. White has some decent rares here. I like the Spellbinder. The Light Scribe's pretty good. Mavinda's good. Sparring Regimen's good. And Proctor, Mastery, and Probation are not great, but everything's pretty solid, reasonable it looks like. Archmage Emeritus. Some emeritus professors return from their wanderings periodically to share tales of the mystical wonders of Arcavios. So 4 mana 2/2. Cast or copy, draw a card. I love that. That's really good. 4 mana 2/2 is small, but you get a lot of value if you have some cheap spells in your deck, and you'll just want to put some cheap spells in your deck to take over the games. If you untap with this, I imagine you're going to win a lot of the time. Yeah, a lot of the ways I think about rares is, are they basically commons that are glorified into rares for some reason? Or are they like cards I'm going to first pick a lot? And I could see first picking this a lot. 3 mana 3/2. When it dies, you learn. Ends a flyer. Whoa, another subscription. Woo!
School us on Strixhaven.
Thank you so much, Kahitsu. I really appreciate that. 8 months. That's a long time. That is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But yeah, these rares seem pretty cool so far. Dream Strix is a good card, I think. It has to be the target of a spell, so it's not just like them having a random tapper. It does die to combat tricks and stuff, but when it dies, you draw a card. So 3 mana 3/2 that like draws you a card, essentially. Even if it draws you kind of a bad card a lot of the time in the form of a learn thing. Though, maybe the learn tokens are going to be, the lesson tokens are going to be easy to get a hold of. Because if you draw like a 5 mana 4/4 or something like that, which is one of the tokens, that's a pretty reasonable card. Hey, Intangible. I like this one. Definitely powerful. Ingenious Mastery. Oh, so there is a cycle of mastery, someone was saying. Yep. You may pay 2 in a blue rather than pay its cost. Okay. You draw 3 cards, and an opponent creates 2 treasure tokens, and they scry 2. If that cost wasn't paid, you draw X cards. So, you can either draw X cards, so like 6 mana draw 3, 5 mana draw 2, 7 mana draw 4, or you can pay 2 in a blue to draw 3 and have your opponent gain 2 mana and scry 2. Which is probably worse than a divination, though, because a scry 2 is oftentimes similar to drawing a card, because if you're in the mid game. But if you're in the mid game, like if you're in the early game, giving them 2 treasures can be really bad for you. But you do draw 3 cards. I don't know what to think of this one. What the heck? This one's so weird. So 3 mana, draw 3. That's good. That would be a very good card. But then they create 2 treasures and scry 2. So that's like gotta be worth at least a card. Maybe even more than a card. It's probably worse than divination in that if it just had that mode. But the fact is that you can also use it as a draw X. So X and then 3 mana to draw X cards. Yeah, break in case of emergency. Yeah, adding 2 mana is a good bit of ramp, especially because there's some pretty expensive cards in the set. Like, imagine you cast this, your opponent gets 2 treasures. Next turn, they just jam, like, the 8 mana 7/7 trample, or they jam the, like, 8 mana deal 5 and deal 3. Yeah, break in case of emergency is such a perfect way of thinking about it. I think this card's still pretty solid, because if you are building a ramp deck, having an X spell that can, like, draw you a bunch of cards is nice. So I could see that being pretty good. Yeah, if you need to like draw into something intangible, that's when you would like it. But then them scrying 2 is pretty bad. I think this card's actually probably not great because it just costs so much to get value, and there's other card draw options available to you. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, well, this is probably a card I'd play in like green-blue maybe, or in red-blue when I need to cast a big spell. Especially if I have some cost reduction for stuff, but I don't think I'll first pick it. Maybe I might first pick it just to try it out because it's such a weird design. But I feel like you can't cast it early, which is when you sometimes want your card draw. Or you can cast it early, but it's really bad for you. Because them scrying 2 and getting 2 treasures is like, makes this worse than divination for the 3 mana. Multiple choice is a sweet one. So you can either scry 1, draw a card, which is reasonable for 2 mana, not great. You may choose a player, they return a creature they control to its owner's hand. So you get to choose an opponent and they have to bounce one of their creatures. And if you, it's 3, so for 4 mana, you create a 4/4. And if you pay 5 mana, then you get to do everything. So, yeah, multiple choice is great. Definitely an easy pick. And definitely a card you'll splash a decent amount, I'd say. Like them bouncing a creature, you making a 4/4, and then scrying and drawing a card. That's the dream. In Teachings of the Archaics, if an opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw 2 cards. Draw 3 cards if an opponent has at least 4 or more cards in hand than you. So it's a lesson that's a stone cold blank if you have the same number of cards. And it's actually pretty powerful if you have less cards than them, and it is a lesson, so you don't have to get it. It's probably still worth picking, because if you have more cards than them, you can just get a different lesson. And if you are behind on cards, then you can get something that's really good. You can get a really good effect for what you need to catch back up on cards. And if you're building like a deck that wants to play all of its lands out, that sometimes you might like run short on gas and they have an extra card in hand. But yeah, it's going to be good and sometimes and bad other times. I don't know how highly I prioritize Teaching of the Archaics, but it seems like a neat design at least, and definitely one that you'll probably be playing it. I mean, you always play the lessons because you don't have to always get them, but they'll just be in your sideboard. But it's pretty nice card, I think. Tempted by the Auric. You gain control of up to 1 target creature. I feel like you'll probably end up with 2 or 3 like lessons without trying that hard, because there is a lesson in every pack. So maybe I feel like you'll end up with 2 lessons at least without trying very hard. Because there's 1 in every pack. So that means that there's 45 to go around. So assuming that some of them are really bad, if you kind of take a couple of lessons here and there, you'll probably end up with 2. Which I feel like is reasonable. It's one of the reasons I'm a little bit lower on the learn cards, because once you stop being able to get a reasonable lesson from the sideboard, the learn cards get a lot worse. And I imagine that there's not that many good lessons to go around, so people are going to fight over them, and then the learn cards aren't very good. That's kind of my level 1, level 2 thinking there. Because when you see a learn card, you kind of have to imagine, what card am I going to get with this? And when you think, oh, I might have 1 good card to get, and then 1 card that's like kind of mediocre, then all of a sudden you're like, well, my learn cards aren't really a high priority because I run out of good things to go get with them. So yeah. Maybe you'll have like 1 really good card like Mascot Exhibition, where you just dumpster someone. But that's how I've been thinking about it. Tempted by the Auric. 1 blue, 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 so hard to cast. But you gain control of 1 creature or planeswalker they control with mana value 3 or less. So you gain control of a small thing. You can also gain control of a token, which is noteworthy. That's reasonable. Definitely reasonable. Good card, I think. Mind control effects are always pretty good. And the fact that this can take a massive fractal from your opponent is not something to be overstated. So I like that aspect of it. Okay, blue had some decent stuff. Multiple choices, great. Archmage, Dreamstrix. Tempted by the Auric. Lots of neat stuff there. Okay, look at black cards here. Baleful Mastery. So you can pay... Oh, it's another Mastery card. I like these ones. These are interesting to think about. I don't think I'm going to cover the Mystical Archives Laser Beam. They're just relatively infrequent. And a lot of the cards are things we've seen before, or they're like constructed plants. And I don't think it's going to be worth talking about them, really. Baleful Mastery. 2 mana rather than pay it. Okay, I'm just going to look at the base effect first. 4 mana, exile a creature or planeswalker. Seal of Approval, that's a good card. If it's 2 mana, an opponent draws a card. So you don't want to play the 2 mana one. Just pay 4 mana to exile a creature, and it's a pretty solid card. It's not like a bomb rare, but it's pretty solid. And sometimes being able, like, the option to cast it for 2 is something that's nice to have. Because sometimes you'll be able to, like, double spell to, like, kill them. Like, maybe you have another 4 mana removal spell. So on turn 6, you cast 2 removal spells and just kill both their blockers and attack them. So the optionality is nice, but you're mostly going to cast it as 4 mana exile creature, which is just a reasonably good card, like a pretty solid one. Callous Blood Mage. So you either get a Pest, or you draw a card, or you get rid of a Graveyard. So Graveyard probably not happening as much, unless you're in a specific matchup where they have something annoying. The 1/1 Pest is probably worse than drawing a card. So it's like a 3 mana 2/1 draw a card, lose a life, which is certainly a reasonable card, though nothing too special. I guess the option to make a Pest is nice as well. Especially because, yeah, sometimes when you need the Pest, you really need the Pest, like if you're behind. Pretty good card, I'd say. 3 mana 2/1 that just had the draw card mode would be reasonable, for sure. And the ability to get the Pest when you need it is nice. So I like it. It's reasonable. I don't think it's anything too absurd, though. Confront the Past. A Planeswalker card. Extra less from your graveyard to the battlefield is a lesson. Twice X load the counters from target planeswalker. So completely unplayable and limited because there's no planeswalkers, and we're moving on. Oh my gosh, Gideon reference. You'll love to see it. Oh my gosh, this is such a good callback to the artwork where Gideon sacrificed himself for Liliana. Why, Gideon? Of all the people, why save me? I ask that question every day, Liliana. You, I miss Gideon. Why did he have to go? No, the pain. Gideon, no. Gideon's sacrifice. Pretty sure that's the card I'm thinking of. Professor Onyx. It's Liliana. It's a Liliana Planeswalker. Ugh. Oh my goodness. Well, the card's unplayable, but we had a moment of silence for Gideon. Auric Lore Mage, 4 mana, 3/3. Search your library for a card, put it in your graveyard, then shuffle. So you can put counters on your Lore Mage, and you can start like searching up cards that mattered for your graveyard. I don't think there's not a Soul Salvage variant in this set. Like it brings cards back from your graveyard to your hand. I don't think, or at least there's not one at common. There might have been an uncommon that I looked at yesterday that did that. I haven't looked at all the cards in that much detail, as I said. I've been recording all of my first impressions of the card, so what you've seen is pretty much what I've done. But I'm pretty sure there's not a card that can get back creatures from the graveyard. So Lore Mage seems not great because you don't really want to be getting like, I guess it's a 4 mana 3/3 that can slowly grow, which just doesn't seem that great. Okey-doke. So yeah, it's an okay card though. And you have to have the instants and sorceries to go get to put in the graveyard. I guess there's some things that care about being in the graveyard, like that little frog creature. But overall, not a huge fan. It's a solid card, but nothing too special. Quill. It's not a great card, I don't think. It is battlefield. You learn. Nice. And it gets +1/+1. It has lifelink. Lifelink is actually really good on equipment. I think this is actually a pretty good card. Poet's Quill strikes me as quite nice. Because giving lifelink to your creatures is really, really powerful, but it just makes it impossible to race you. And you get to replace it with something when it enters the battlefield, so I like that. I like this one. Pretty cheap to equip too, which is nice. Onyx. You get to draw cards, you get to kill their big creatures, you get to have a game-winning ultimate, and you get to like drain them out of the game when you cast instants and sorceries. What's not to love? This is a bomb rare. Gotta love the Professor Onyx there. Not like the most broken planeswalker ever, but still quite good. Sedgemoor Witch. So it's a 3/2 menace with kind of hard to, like, cost them life to target it. And whenever you cast or copy... Ooh, this card's real nice. Makes pests. Just tacking on that to every instant and sorcery you cast. I like this card a lot. This one's really good. Conspiracy Theorist. Oh, I wish this one had flavor text. I'm sure they would have knocked that out of the park. Less flavor text on the rares. But... you know, you can't have everything you want. Oh my gosh, you're right. Oh, that's such a good find, Laser Beam. Her little headband is in the background. Good call. Good find. Good find. That's nice. Okay, Conspiracy Theorist. Good find on the artwork. I love it when they do stuff like that with the art. So it's a 2 mana 2/2. Nice. Attacks, you can pay 1 and discard a card. If you do draw a card, that's also good. When you discard one or more non-land cards, you may exile one of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. So it's card advantage if you're willing to pay 1 extra for your spells. So you play this on turn 2, attack, discard a 2-drop, pay the 1. Pay the 1, discard a 2-drop, then cast the 2-drop. Also, if you have like the there's the card in red-white that's discard 2, draw 3 essentially. And so you can discard a card with that and then cast it. I thought the Chain Veil got destroyed. Didn't they destroy it in Throne of Eldraine? I was pretty sure that they destroyed the Chain Veil. Because I thought Garrick was like under the enchantment of the Chain Veil in Eldraine. And then they freed him eventually. Or maybe that was Oko had him under an enchantment. But But I thought the Chain Veil was involved. Some lore person will know. But yeah, this card's pretty nice. It gets you some card advantage. And it works well with some of the other discard effects. You think Tybalt has it. Good to know, Intangible. Good to know. But yeah, I like the card. Cute design. Crackle with power. Triple X. That's a lot of X's. 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets. So if you pay 5 mana, you deal 5 damage to one thing. Oh, and it can target players. If you pay 8 mana, Cauldron of Eternity freed him. Nice. Nice. I thought some person freed him. Like Rowan and Will Kenrith or something. But if you pay 1 mana, you deal 5 damage to anything, which is a decent card. If you pay 8 mana, 2, 4, 6, 8 mana, you deal 5 times X damage. So you deal 10 damage to 2 different things. Yeah, this card's great. So it's either 5 mana, deal 5, or 8 mana, deal 10 to your opponent and their best creature. Dealing 10 to the opponent often kills them, though. What a weird card. It's like one of those ones where you have to read it, do some double checking of the math. Bizarre card. Draconic Intervention. It has 23 full cycles. I have no idea how that compares to other sets. I tend to like cycles because I like order and things like that. In that way, I'm very Quandrix. It's very Quandrix of me to say such a thing, but I like orders and sets like that. I always kind of enjoy seeing how they design the ones for each one. That is a lot of cycles, though. Because you imagine 23 times 5, they make like 200-something cards in the set. Let's just say they make 215, 210. And if it's 23 times 5, that's like 135 of the cards. Already accounted. No, it's like 115 of the cards already accounted for. I added an extra 20. So like 115 of the cards counted for. It's like half the set in cycles, but you know, it's fun to design cycles. Intervention. Exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. X damage to each non-dragon creature. Exile the card's mana value. Okay, so this is a reasonable card because there's a lot of expensive instants and sorceries in the set. So it's like a board wipe, kind of. It's kind of hard to use sometimes because you might want to cast it before you have a big thing in your graveyard, but still probably reasonable. I'm not sure how high of a pick it is. Probably medium pick. Especially because not every deck loves board wipes. And this one's even more narrow in the decks it can go in. Ifrit Flame Painter. Double strike for 4 mana, 1/4. When you use combat damage, you may cast an instant sorcery from your graveyard with base mana cost. Well, this card's great. Definitely hard to connect with it, but the way it works with double strike is it deals combat damage twice. So if you connect with them, so like imagine casting this on turn 4. Imagine going turn 3 removal spell, turn 4 cast this, turn 5 cast another removal spell, one of their creatures, attack, it deals 2 damage, and you get to cast like more removal spells. I don't know, seems pretty nice. It's just one of those cards where they just have to be like hold back 2 blockers because if it ever connects, they just lose the game. Seems quite nice to me. Fervent Mastery, another of the masteries. 5 mana, search your library, have 3 cards, put them into your hand, shuffle, then discard 3 cards at random. That's not really a playable effect. That is true, Fringed. An opponent discards any number of cards, then draws that many cards. But that situation comes up less often than you'd think, Fringed. As well, I will say. You may pay 2 red rather than fate's cost. An opponent discards any number of cards, then draws that many cards, and then you search your library after 3 cards, and then shuffle and discard 3 cards. This card's unplayable, I think. Illuminate History. Where is Quantorius? Or, no, how can I forget his name? The elephant. Oh, you're right, Jasper Lion. This card also works really well with those massive instants and sorceries that can be discarded for 2 mana. Because you can respond to the them having no blockers by cycling the card, I think. I don't think it has to be done at sorcery speed. 4 mana, discard any number, then draw the many cards. Then if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, create a 3/2. This is a pretty reasonable one. Yeah, you would meta voice. I think this card's pretty good. It's one of those lessons where you'll want to, if you have it in your sideboard and you have some learn cards, you'll want to just hold on to extra lands, and then you can maybe just get a 3/2 and do some good stuff. Retriever Phoenix. When I hear Retriever, I think of like a puppy or something like that. Not necessarily of a dragon or a phoenix, but you know. Flying Haste for 4 mana. Enters the battlefield if you cast it, learn, okay. Which is a reasonable effect too. As long as it's in your graveyard, if you would learn, you may instead return it to the battlefield. That's pretty nice. I like this card a lot. Once you have this, your learn cards get pretty good. And you can learn, you get to learn with it, get your one good learn card, and then you just get to get your Retriever Phoenix back. It's basically turning all of your learn creature cards into a 2/2 flying haste creature. I like this card a lot. Decent amount. Seems pretty cool and really fun to play with. Well, I don't think it's too powerful because the learn cards were already going to get something, and this just gets them like something that you have that's actually a little more powerful. So moving on to the green cards. Accomplished Alchemist. How many of the cards have I covered? Like halfway onto one page, so I've still got a lot to go. You have a lot to learn, young one. So the 4 mana, add mana of any color. So you can add a decent amount. You don't generally need mana dorks on turn 4, but in this set that might be an exception because there's some really expensive cards. So this one seems pretty good. And a 4 mana 2/5 that can add mana, maybe sometimes even multiple is nice. Conjuration. And you have to gain more than 1 life to add multiple mana, so it's probably just a 4 mana mana dork that can fix your colors a little bit, which is reasonable. Conjuration. The 3 life really makes this nice. It's a lesson. You're not going to main deck this, but it's a pretty reasonable card to go get when you're learning. Elite. Oh, so it's instead of being like a 1/1 base, like cards like this we've seen in the past, it's a 2 mana 2/2 that just gets counters. And then you can double the number of counters. This card seems like it could take over the game. This one's really good. Yeah, I like this one a lot. Really powerful. Easily see myself first picking that. Ecological Appreciation. Another big X spell. Library and graveyard for up to 4 cards with different names that each have mana value X or less. And reveal them. Don't choose 2 of them. Shuffle the chosen cards into your library and put the rest onto the battlefield. Ooh. So, you have to use it for, if you cast it for 5, which is 8 mana, you get a 5-drop, 4-drop, 3-drop, and 2-drop. And you get to put a 3-drop and a 2-drop into play. Oh no, you can get any of them. They don't have to have different X values. They can all be the same. They can all be like 5. So you can get, if you do this for 8 mana, you can get 4 5-drops. And get 2 of them into play. That seems like the best case scenario. Oh no, you can also do it for 7 mana and get 2 4-drops into play. 6 mana to get 2 3-drops is a little bit dicey, but you'll probably have a lot of 3-drops. The card seems okay. Kind of a cute design. You have to have a lot of pretty good creatures. You have to have some creatures you want to get that are like 4-drops or 3-drops in that range, because that's generally where you're going to be. But I think it's a pretty good card. Seems fun to try out at least. You get your mana. You get the exact, like, pretty much the smaller you for X's, you don't really get an advantage if you do X equals 3. But if you do X equals 4, you'll get a little bit of a mana advantage. So you might just rather have like a big 8-drop by the time you're casting this for 8. Exponential Growth. Double target creature's power X times. I love that. Fundamentally disagree with the concept of enough. So let's see how many times you'd have to do this with a 2/2 to kill them. So if it's a 2/2, double goes to 4, double goes to 8, double goes to 16. That's probably going to kill them. They are Jasper Land. So if you do this for 8 mana, which is a lot, you can kill them with a 2/2 because 16 damage is usually going to be enough to kill them. It is sorcery speed though, so it's probably not really that great. And by probably not, I mean it just doesn't look that great. Oh, I just realized there's like the big elk, the littler elk, the littler elk, the littler. Or I guess this is the small one, the bigger one, the bigger one, the bigger one. Gnarled Professor. 4 mana, 5/4, trample with learn. Real good. Pretty classic. Great card, and not much more to say. Fervent Mastery. Ooh, we're almost on the gold cards. That'll be exciting. Exciting stuff. Fervent Mastery, 6 mana. So it's the last mastery card. 4 mana rather than pay its cost. So let's just look at the base effect. 6 mana, search your library up to 4 basic land cards and reveal them. Put one of them onto the battlefield tapped under an opponent's control. Oh, no. Put 2 of them onto the battlefield tapped under your control and the rest into your hand. Nice, Darkslane. So 6 mana to put 2 lands into the battlefield tapped and 2 into your hand. And if you pay 4 mana, then you give your opponent one of the 2 lands that would go to your hand. So you ramp them a mana. I could see actually casting the 4 mana version of this because you do only give you still get more benefit than your opponent because you get 2 lands and a land to your hand, and they get 1 into play. I could see casting this and then just casting, because if you go on turn 4, you cast this. Next turn, you'll have 7 mana guaranteed. Jamming a 7-drop. They'll go from 4 to 6 mana. I could see it doing something. But probably not a card I would take highly. So that's all the green cards. Now we're moving on to some of the... Wow, there's a lot of complicated cards here. But there's also a land cycle, I think, that we can breeze through. Pugilist. We'll still have it here. What's going to happen to your face? 3 mana, 3/3 trample. If you have 8 or more lands, it gets +5/+5. That's a fantastic card. What's the backside? 5 mana. Oh. Well, the front side's really good. The back side's pretty niche, but it's nice to have the option. 2 of them go into play. No, I think this part, if it's and that's just this clause. So your opponent gets one of the lands that would have gone to your hand into play, and then you get to put 2 of them into play regardless. Blex. Other pests, so all of the little tokens get +1/+1, nice. And when it dies, you gain 4 life. I like that. That's pretty good. Even a 3 mana 3/2 that died into 4 life would be pretty good. And the fact that it buffs your other pests is nice. What's this do? Top 5 cards, any number into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card. That's just a lot of value. I'm not setting myself up for failure like that, Laser Beam. This is a pretty good card advantage, like 4 mana. I guess it's a lot of damage if you don't have a lot of life gain. Yeah, happy to do it, Jasper. I sometimes struggle to read cards for sure. I've been there for sure. So losing 3 life for each card, there's like, you don't get any cards baseline. So like paying 6 life to draw 2 cards is just a lot of life. So this is probably not going to be cast most. You're mostly casting Blex. Vexing Blex. Blex Vexing. Blex Vexing is harder to say than Vexing Blex, I guess. I like Blex though. Pretty solid card again. Extus. Blex Exitus. Auric Overlord. Join me for the dawn of a new age. Is this Tybalt again? Nope, it's not. It's the Awaken the Blood Avatar. Jeez Louise. So this is a 3-color card if you want to be able to cast both sides. 4 mana, 2/4 double strike. Ooh, so then you can start returning creatures. That's pretty great. Very good card. On this side, what's the back side? 8 mana. Okay. There's a lot of expensive cards. You may sacrifice any number of creatures. It costs 2 less for each creature sacked this way. Okay. I don't think red-black is really a supported color combo in this set. Each opponent sacks a creature. Create a 3/6 black and red avatar creature token with haste, and whenever a creature attacks, it deals 3 damage. So it attacks for 6, and they sack a creature. That's pretty reasonable, but it does cost a lot of mana. Yeah. But it's pretty tough too, because the 3/6 is hard to block, especially once you sack a creature. It's mostly going to get splashed in black-green, I'd imagine. but then the white-black part's hard to cast. So if you play black-green and splash white and splash red, I think this card's really good. the Extus part is really good. And so even if you, I guess maybe you splash the red in the black-white deck you draft. It's nice to have the option regardless, but this card's really good. Celebrant. Activates ability isn't a mana ability. Nice. +2/+0 until end of turn. Nice. Revel in Silence. Can't cast spells. Exile Revel in Silence. So you can cast it on their upkeep or something on a key turn and they can't cast any spells. It's a reasonable effect. It's not really a card you're going to cast very often because it puts you down a card. But delaying them by a turn can be nice. Once you're in the late game and you're 2/1 doesn't matter though. This one can pump itself pretty efficiently. Paying 2 mana for +2/+0 is nice. And the little pings add up. I like the Celebrant. Yadzi. Oracle of Arcavios. Nice. Cool that there's an Oracle. 8 mana, 5/5. Everything costs 8 mana in this set. It's wild. Discard a card, return it to its owner's hand. That's nice. Gives you some protection. Magecraft is probably going to be pretty good. Cast or copy. Reveal the top card. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 rather than its mana cost. And if it's a land you put on the battlefield, that is sweet. That's a really powerful effect. Really powerful effect. I think this card's pretty good on the front half, even though it costs 8. There's a lot of ramp in this set, I think. I'm coming up and up and up on that 3 mana ramp card in green, the one that just puts a forest in it, puts a basic land into play for 3 mana. At common, that card's getting better and better to me as I see how many expensive cards there are on cards that care about having 8 lands in play. Let's see the backside. Any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Then if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. If you do, return Journey of the Oracle to its owner's hand. Okay, so if you're on turn 4 and you have 4 lands in play, you just win the game, pretty much. Because you just get to bring it back to the hand and then cast the wizard the next turn and just go to town. But generally this half is not super good. Any number of land cards. And you have to discard a card. That's just a weird effect. But it'd be cool to go off with that. To find Yadzi, one need only wander. To find Jadzi or Yadzi. Nice. This is a cool design. I love looking at the rares because the designs are always so cool. This one's going to be fun to play with. Kiane, Dean of Substance. Ooh, there's a lot of cards. Many cards. Ugh. I'm glad that I'm reading through them all, though, because then when I play against them, I'll be like, oh, yes. I'll have to read that card again, because it's complicated. 3 mana, 2/2. Exile top card. There's a land. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. Okay. What does a study counter do? Create a 0/0 green-blue fractal. Put a counter on it for each different mana value among non-land cards you own in exile with study. What the heck is that? What? So you draw lands. That's good. Arcavius is the plane that Strixhaven is on. Good to know. That makes sense. So you draw lands. That's good. And if it's not a land, it gets added to a pile, which you then count the different numbers of to determine how big the fractals you make for 5 mana are. Reasonable. And then Imbraham, Dean of Fury. 4 mana. So this is a 3 mana 2/2. This is a 4 mana 3/3. Flyer, which is good. Exile the top X. Put a study counter on each of them. Then you may put a card you own in exile with a study counter on it into your hand. That's reasonable. It draws you cards as well. 3 mana to tap and draw a card is a nice effect, and you can even tap more. Both of these cards are pretty reasonable. I could see casting both of them. You would probably play them in either of their colors, so you'd play just the Imbraham half or just the Kiane half. Mila, crafty companion. I like that it's paired with Luca. Luca is back. Luca, Wayward Bonder. I thought Luca had turned evil or something. Or maybe he was evil from the get-go or something. Huh. Let's see. Attacks one or more planeswalkers. Put a counter on each planeswalker. Permanent you control becomes a target of a spell. You may draw a card. Pretty nice for a 3-mana 2/3 with that ability. Then Luca, you can discard it to draw. Creature discarded, you draw 2 cards instead. Okay. Turn a creature, it gains haste. So this part's not very good so far. The ultimate's pretty nice. But I like the Fox more. Because the Fox get taxi from removal makes it really irritating. Cauldron. Discard a card. Create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when a creature dies, you gain 1 life. So you can discard a card to create a pest. Each opponent mills cards equal to the amount of life. Exile 4 target cards from a single graveyard to draw a card. So some value there a little bit in the late games. Up to 2 target creature, land, and or planeswalker cards to be graveyard to your hand. Each player gains 4 life. So you could draw 2 cards that are spells. This is okay, but nothing too special, I don't think. Plarg, Dean of Chaos. Discard to draw. Nice. Non-legendary, non-land. Okay. And you can cast it. That's pretty good effect. Augusta. Wow, the Chaos and Order combined. Nice. Tap creatures get +1/+0. Untap creatures get +0/+1. When you attack, untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control. So they can all attack with +1 toughness or +1 attack. It's only other creatures, keep that in mind. I like that one. 3-mana 1/3 is a little bit rough, but it can buff all your creatures' power or toughness and give them vigilance if you want. And this card's pretty good, so this is a good card. Jeez Louise, these cards are so hard to figure out what they're doing. There's so many flip cards. Oh my gosh. There's so many. Just every rare is just a unbelievable slog to get through. What happened to the just... I guess a lot of rares are complicated. For some reason, Verisol popped into my head, but that's a really complicated rare from Zendikar Rising. Oh my gosh, every card in this set is so complicated here at the rare level. Water break. Ugh. Another big reading set. Yeah. I mean, the commons weren't that complicated. I feel like my mind has just been, like, overwhelmed by these cards, though. Oh, my goodness. Rowan, Scholar of Sparks. Instants and sorceries cost 1 less. That's nice. Only 2 loyalty. 1 damage to each opponent. If you draw 3 or more cards, that's not great. The ultimate's pretty good, though. 5 mana. Same passive. Shrink creatures, draw 2 cards. So 5 mana, draw 2, and then it has the uptick ability. Exile 5 permanents. Each permanent exile this way, its controller creates a 4/4. So you just exile all your lands and win the game. I think this side's better than the red side because you have to ping them twice. Once you ping them twice and then get to copy all your stuff, you still have to pay 2, which makes it hard to copy the big stuff still. I think the Will Scholar of Frost is a little bit better half of this card. Still, it's good to have options. Because you can just immediately get some cards out of this, whereas 3 mana just ping them a couple times ain't great. Ugh. Ugh. No. 3 mana 2/3. You can give your stuff indestructible, nice. Or you can pay 8 mana. 8 mana seems to be a theme in the set. To destroy all other creatures except for 1. Good to have options. Pretty good card. Shail, Dean of Radiance. You are so much stronger than you know. No flavor text on that side. 2 mana, 1/1 vigilance with flying. Put a counter on each creature. So that's nice. You can get a counter on all of your creatures as they enter. Fits well with the flavor text. Dean of Shadow. So all of the Deans are kind of like opposites of each other. Yeah, if you want the discount ASAP. Counter on another target creature, then it deals 2 damage to that creature. So you can kill 1/1s. Or you can kill your own creatures and draw cards. Yeah, I can see that happening, Meta Voice. Pretty reasonable. 4 mana, 4/4 as well. I think both sides have their merits. Early game, you'd probably want to play this to buff all of your creatures up. Late game, you want to cast this thing to ping down their 1/1s and start killing your useless creatures. Or just you can also just put counters onto your creatures that have 2 or more toughness. So if you have a 2/2, you can start growing it, which is nice. Torrent Sculptor, 4 mana, 2/2, ward 2, hard to target. Oh, so if you exile a 3 mana value card, you make a 4/4 flyer. I like that. Nice. Discard, then draw a card. When you discard instant sorcery, deals damage to cards mana value. This is hard to use because you have to have enough instants and sorceries that you can consistently discard them, and you want to have instants and sorceries that you want to discard instead of drawing them to kill something. So you're probably going to cast the Torrent Sculptor half most of the time. It's hard to target big flyer a lot of the time. Uvilda, Dean of Perfection. I think we're almost through the double-faced cards, which will really help. Oh, it looks like we are. Because then we're back to just evaluating one card at a time. Okay, Uvilda, Dean of Perfection. These are the rares, to be quite fair, so they are a little bit complicated. Oh, it's not a flyer. Good point, Cannon. Good point. Yeah, it could be tough for casual players, but these are the rares, Nasus Dano. And so the rares are oftentimes complicated. These aren't like cards that are going to be like making up the bulk of your deck. You'll probably have like 1 or 2 of these cards in your deck. Yeah, the commons are reasonably simple, I would agree. Ecstatic Charge. And there's only 5 archetypes, so it's probably not that bad for casual players. Learn is a tricky mechanic, though. Torrent Sculptor not being a flyer does make it a bit worse. I don't know why I thought it was a flyer. It looks like it has wings and stuff. I definitely would have thought it had flying until I ran it into a big ground creature, so thank you, Cannon. That makes it a decent amount worse. 4 mana 4/4 can just be blocked still. If it was a flyer, it'd be much better, but they don't even have room for flying text. And you can sometimes exile like a 7 mana card to make a 4 mana 6/6, but by that point in the game, you already have a 7 mana card in your graveyard, so you're doing stuff. Unless you have one of the ones that can like discard itself. Still a pretty good card, I'd say. Dean of Perfection. Okay, this one has a lot of text, I think. I remember I think they talked about it on Constructed Resources or something. You may exile an instant sorcery card from your hand and put 3 hone counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a hone counter from it, and when the last hone counter is removed, if it is exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less to cast. So you basically put it on suspend, but it's a cost decrease instead of being cast for free. And it's a 3 mana 2/2. That's not that good, I don't think. The backside, Nasari, Dean of Expression, is a 5 mana 4/4, so still a little bit understated. As when you exile the top card of each opponent's library until end of turn, you may cast spells from among those exiled cards. You may spend mana so they were remaining of any color to cast spells. So you can cast your opponent's stuff, and you get a counter. So this half is really good. Nasari is really good. It draws you a card from your opponent's library and gets counters every time you cast one. You can't play lands from that, but it's still really good. I like Nasari. I don't love Uvilda, but Nasari is sweet. Valentin, Dean of the Vein. 1/1 lifelink menace. That's sometimes okay. If a non-token creature would die, exile it, and you can pay 2 to get a pest. Nice. 4 mana 4/4. When you gain life, you can pay 1. If you put a counter on each creature you control, well, you're going to be casting Lisette almost every time because it's just more relevant. And then as soon as you gain life, you just win the game. It's also just a 4 mana 4/4. Yeah, Lisette's absurd. A lot of these cards have like one side that's just absolutely bonkers and limited, and the other side not being that good. But maybe not all of them, but a couple of them do. Lisette, what a card. That's a heck of a card. Whew. Belladros, Witherbloom. I like that they brought back Elder Dragons. Elder Dragons are sweet. I love Elder Dragons. I guess that might be obvious, but to be honest, NicolaiBolas as a username was mostly because Nicole Bolas is close to Nikolai. But I also happen to like Elder Dragons, so it lines up. Though to be fair, most people like Elder Dragons, I feel like, so. Yeah, Cannon pointed that out, Ecstatic Charge. It does not fly. That is true. It's always good to double check those things, though, because I have missed that sort of thing in the past. 7 mana for a 4/4 flyer. And in each upkeep, you create a 1/1. So that's really good because it's each upkeep. So theirs and yours. So you're pretty much always going to get the first one. If they don't kill, you get another one. And you can pay 10 life to untap all your lands. So you can even cast it for free if you have a lot of life floating around. So you can like double spell. That seems really good to me. That's a bomb. And if it's a 4/4 flyer. Just the making a pest every turn is really good and hard to beat. Blade Historian. So it's pretty much a gold card unless you're a monocolored deck. Attacking creatures have double strike. Well, that's absurd. Yeah, really good card. Giving everything double strike is pretty nutty. Blot out the sky. Create X tapped 2/1 white and black inkling tokens without flying. If X is 6 or more, destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents. So you kill all of the non-creatures, which isn't that much relevant stuff. But also just like 4 mana to make 2/2/1 flyers, 5 mana to make 3 of them. This card's just really good. Body of Research, difficult to cast. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your library. What? So you just make a 20/20 a lot of the time? Or if you top deck it late in the game, it's just garbage, which is really funny. Nice. That's awesome. So 6 mana, but it's really hard to cast. So you'll often be casting it on turn 8 or something, maybe. But you just make a 20/20 that can like end the game. I like it. Really good card, I think. I guess there maybe is a mythic for every color that makes a big token of some kind, or a lot of tokens. We'll have to see if there's one for the other colors. We'll have to check back in on that. But this like looks like there's a fractal, there's an inkling one. Yeah, still would be a 10/10 a lot of the time or more. And then by that point in the game, you don't need something as big. Culling Ritual. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. So all tokens and small things. Add red or green for each permanent destroyed this way. That part isn't as relevant. This card isn't very good, I don't think. Because you're not going to be able to like set it up as easily, and they have to have a big token. Maybe it's more of a sideboard card or a card that you'll bring in if they have a big fractal or a bunch of inklings or something. I don't think it's that good for 4 mana. I guess the mana is not irrelevant. Sometimes you can cast a 2-drop or something if you really get lucky. Or if you have a couple of cards that you have from yourself. Ugh. Oh, does the land care about mana value, Laser Beam? The land that makes things unblockable? Is that from... I thought it was power 3 or less. Is the land mana value 3 or less? Culmination of Studies. Top X. Each land exiled, create a treasure. Nice. Each blue card, draw a card. Nice. Each red card deals 1 damage to each opponent. So you want to exile blue cards and lands. But when you are, that's a lot of effect. So if you do it for 4, say. If you do this for X equals 4. Oh, which common creature makes things unblockable? Oh, no, I thought that was an uncommon. The 5 mana, 3 and a blue. I think I saw Ben say that as well. Which card is Access Tunnel again? Let's just look that card up to see if it says mana value. Power 3 or less. Yeah. If it was mana value, I could see that being a thing. Yeah, it's power 3 or less. Yeah, I'm not sure if Ben we're talking about Mr. Metronome, by the way, when we say Ben. He's a great content creator. I like him. Yeah, I knew that, Ecstatic Charge. I was just clarifying for people watching on YouTube as well. He's a great content creator. But I think if it was mana value, it would make sense. But if it's not, then like you have big fractals or whatever. The Portal Serpent. I think that's a Portal Serpent is a uncommon, I'm pretty sure. I seem to remember that looking at that yesterday. Gosh darn it. Serpent, Strixhaven. No. What's it called? Just someone in chat, look it up, please. I need to get back to the cards I'm looking at here. But yeah, Culminations, if you cast it for 6 and you exile a reasonable thing. So let's just say you exile 2 lands, 1 red card, and 1 blue card. That's not that good. Because you replaced itself, you got 2 treasures, and you did 1 damage. But if you cast it for like 8, X equals 6, exile 2 of each, still not that good. Wormhole Serpent. This is the card we're talking about. Wormhole Serpent. There we go. I misspelled worm because I thought they were doing that spelling. This can give target creature, so that's pretty nice for your decks, it feels like. Good find, Magistratorian. Yeah, I don't love Culmination of Studies. It feels a little bit too expensive to be useful. Especially because if the red part was deal 1 damage to any target, then that'd be much better. But as it is, you need to be exiling like 2 blue cards, and like the treasures aren't super relevant, I don't think, by the time you're casting this for a big amount. Demigoth Titan, 4 mana for an 11/10. Whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature. So you need a lot of pests running around. It feels way too hard to get this to work, because it has to hit multiple times. It still gets wrecked by like a bounce spell, or like them having the like white card that kills an attacker, or the black card that just kills anything. I don't know. It feels like they'll just chump it, and every time you attack with it, you're sacking a creature too, so that they don't mind chumping it. I don't love it. I feel like I'll pass on it. It's also kind of really hard to cast. You have to be exactly 1 guild. I don't think I'll be first picking this very often, or really ever. Double Mage. I don't think it's that good. Yeah, you have to combine it with another card that's really bad, or a card that I don't think is that good. Double Major. Copy target creature spell you control, except if it isn't legendary. What is that sentence? Except if it isn't legendary if the spell is legendary. What the? My brain just did a backflip. Can copy target creature spell you control, except it isn't legendary if the spell is legendary. Okay. Whew. I thought that said if instead of it, and I just like went, what the heck? Except if it isn't legendary, if it is legendary. So it's an instant spell. You copy a creature spell, and if it isn't legendary, except it isn't legendary if it is legendary. So you can copy a legendary creature, essentially, is what it's saying. Whew, I'm glad I resolved that in my mind. So you can copy any creature, including legendary creatures. It delegendifies. Exactly, Magistratorian. Delegendify is the perfect word. Okay, so you can copy whatever you can copy any creature you want for 2 mana. I don't love it because you have to copy it when it's on the stack. You can't just copy a creature. And so that means you have to have the 2 extra mana to cast your good creature. And you have to have this card in your hand. You can't just top deck it later. So I don't love Double Major. Oh my gosh, we're almost there. These cards have been kind of a slog to get through, not gonna lie. Even though a lot of them are pretty sweet designs. Oh my gosh, another legendary dragon, Elder Dragon. Hype! That's what EDH stands for, by the way. Elder Dragon. Hype! Highlander, no way. There can only be one. Sorry. Dramatic Finale. So this is a hard to cast one. Creature tokens get +1/+1. And there's some tokens running around. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control die, create a 2/1. Oh my gosh. That's pretty sweet. So your creature is dying to Inklings that are 3/2s? So this basically says every time a creature would die that you control, you get a 3/2 flyer. It triggers once each turn. So if you attack with one creature and block with one creature. That seems pretty good. Once per turn, yeah. So it's not every time a creature dies. It's 4 mana for not an immediate impact, which is risky. But it feels like you can't lose a long game where you have this. Right? Like, if you play this on turn 4, if you go like 2-drop, 3-drop, Dramatic Finale, how do you lose that game? They just can't attack you on the ground. They can't block you on the ground, or you make a 3/2 flyer. And there's some sacrifice stuff, and I don't know. I feel like this is pretty good. I'm going to at least want to try it out. But on my first instinct, which this is a first impressions thing, is that this is good. Like, I read it, and I was like, wow, that's powerful. That's kind of where I go sometimes. I just go straight for, it's powerful. It looks powerful. It looks like it has some potential. And potential is the name of the game. We're talking about practice. I don't know. Oh, gosh. Elemental Expressionist. Okay, 4 mana 4/4, already pretty solid. They have to be exactly those colors pretty much. Cast or copy an instant, choose target creature you control. Until end of turn, it gains that this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. And when you exile this creature, create a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. So basically, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you can make one of your creatures die into a 4/4. That seems really good. So like mid-combat, they block one of your smaller creatures, you use a removal spell on one of their creatures, and you make your creature die into a 4/4. And it's just a 4 mana 4/4 on its own. I like Expressionist. Nice. Seems good. Galazeth Prismari. Galazeth. It's been too long, brother. I can totally see that being dialogue in like a TV show about Strixhaven. What was the other one's name? I forget. What was the black-green one called? Sorry, this dialogue needs to be authentic. Beledros. It's been too long. Not long enough, Galazeth. I'd go to the ends of the world to avoid seeing you. You can make tokens? Exile it. When you exile this creature, create a 4/4. Huh. That's pretty cool. I didn't think about that Magistratorian, but that's neat. That is neat. Hi, pseudonym. Enters, create a token, treasure token. 4 mana 3/4 flyer, already good. Creating a treasure is nice. And you can tap it to cast instants and sorceries. And any other artifacts you have. Pretty good card. I mean, it might not be as splashy as something else, but like 4 mana 3/4 flyer doesn't need any help to be great. And it's already got this extra artifact stuff, which is nice. Harness Infinity, 7 mana. You'll love to see it. Galazeth. Galazeth. Okay, sorry. I'm just like saying Elder Dragon names like that. Exchange your hand and graveyard. What? I love cards like this. So we've been reading all of this like monster text, not really monster text on that guy, but we've just been reading all this monster text, and then this card just has 2 lines. Exchange your hand in your graveyard, exile Harness Infinity. That is such a sick card. Oh my gosh. So if you've been trading off your creatures, all of us, and you just cast this in the late game, all of a sudden you just draw like 10 cards. Oh my goodness. As I stepped into the Star Arch, it all became perfectly clear. Life and death are not opposites, but an endless path, twisting around and back upon itself, never ending and never beginning. Say here, Professor of Biophilosophy. I am excited to try this card out. I'm not exactly sure how good it is. I mean, 7 mana that you can't really cast on turn 7 because you don't want to get rid of your hand on turn 7 a lot of the time. And like, it is just an instant I win the game in the late game pretty much because you get back everything. You just get to draw basically a sculpted 7 of your best creatures that have died, your removal spells. I'm going to be trying this out. It also works pretty well with self-mill stuff. There's a little bit of that in the set. I'm going to try it out for sure. Seb McKinnon has incredible art. It's an instant? Oh my gosh. Even better. You can cast this on your opponent's end step, and then you can cast all of the cards and not have to discard the hand size as much. I don't know how good this card is, but it seems really sweet to me. I'm definitely going to try it out and be first picking it. One of the things you must decide when you're playing a game such as Magic is the wins factor versus how cool is the card going to be, and if it has potential to be incredible. And it has potential, and it gives you such a unique experience when you build a deck around this sort of card. Okay, let's look up the next card. Hopefree Ghostforge. Someone is calling it S tier before I've looked at it. Nice. Spirits you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. That's nice for the spirits deck. It's a 5 mana 4/5, so already pretty good. And then that line of text is nice. Let's read the little bonus paragraph. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a spirit in addition to its other types, and has, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to your graveyard. Oh my gosh! This card's bonkers! Okay, I need to say that a different way. That sounded kind of bad. Just saying, this is bonkers! I feel like I'm talking like a cartoon character of some kind. Did you hear that, Scooby? This card is bonkers! That was not a good Shaggy. I am sorry. I am very sorry. That was not a good Scooby either. I should stop trying to impersonate them. I never even really watched that show. Oh my gosh. It's okay, Nikolai. Breathe. You don't have to be perfect at impersonating Shaggy. That's because I am a cartoon character. I don't think so. I don't think I'm a cartoon character. Okay, so this card's a bomb. It just basically makes it's like kind of like a better version of Dramatic Finale, where all of your creatures just die into themselves, but they get +1/+1 trample and haste. And then you have a 5-mana 4/5 as well. So works pretty well if you have some self-sacrifice stuff or just like trading creatures in combat or on defense. Pretty much you just lose if you don't kill it. Yep, pretty great card. Kasmina Enigma Sage is not great in limited. I mean, Planeswalkers in general are pretty good in limited, but like this one scries 1. It really is a combo piece with other Planeswalkers where you can give Planeswalkers that don't typically have a +2 ability. It also works with some of the once a creature dies, you exile it. So I think it still goes to the graveyard and then leaves the graveyard if you have cards that care about triggering when things leave the graveyard. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's how I'm reading it initially. So when it dies, it doesn't say exile it instead. So they just get exiled. So you get, like, if you have Quintorius, which gets you a 3/2 every time something is exiled from your graveyard or leaves your graveyard, you'll get to trigger your Quintorius too because it goes to the graveyard and then gets exiled, I think. Yeah, if it dies, it definitely touches the graveyard. That's what I was thinking, intangible. Kasmina, so you can basically pay a 3 mana to make a 2/2 fractal, which isn't the end of the world, or 3 mana, wait a turn, make a 4/4 fractal. I guess it's better in limited than I was thinking. 3 mana 2/2 fractal base is not that bad. Or 3 mana 1/1 fractal, and then you can start plussing. Yeah, that's reasonable. In limited for 3 mana, it's not that much mana. This is the owl, I think, that we saw in blue earlier, I think. It's got a name, I think. Dream Strix. Nope, it's not a named owl. But it looks like the same art. This card's probably reasonable to play. Scrying is okay. And the token is pretty... It's a thing. You'll be able to make a 3 mana 2/2 token. A 3 mana 2/2 is under rate, but if it's a 3 mana 4/4, it's above rate. And you can do that if you just have Kasmina survive. So if you play like turn 3 Kasmina on the play and they didn't have a 2-drop, then just next turn you can just make a 4/4 or a 3/3 and keep Kasmina around. So Planeswalkers are just good in limited, so Kasmina is better in limited than it looks, I think. Yeah, a couple of cries, a 3/3 and some 2/2. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Lorehold command. 5 mana, choose 2. You can create a 3/2 at instant speed. Creature you can get +1/+1, gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Nice. 3 damage to any target. Target player gains 3 life. Sack a permanent and draw a few cards. That's a great card. Pretty balmy. I like it. Gets you a lot of value. Giving all of your creatures indestructible and haste can be relevant. All of these abilities are really nice. Magma Opus. Instead of Magnum Opus, it's Magma. I like it. 4 damage divided used by any number of targets. Tap 2 permanents. Create a 4/4. And then draw 2 cards. And you can create a treasure token. Okay, so this thing just does it all. Create a 4/4 to eat something in combat. Tap 2 of their permanents. Draw 2 cards. 4 damage. Yeah, this is a really good card if you can get up to 8 mana. That's a pretty big if, but you can discard it sometimes to help cast your other expensive spells. Yeah. It's hard to say how easy these 8 mana spells are going to be to cast, but we've seen so many 8 mana spells and 7 mana spells, and there's cost reduction on some cards. I think the blue-red wizard that makes your instants and sorceries cost less, the red-blue one, is going to be really good in this set. It's got to be, because there's so many expensive ones that just win you the game when you cast them. But yeah, and also the card that like counters instants and sorceries might be getting better because of how many of these big ones there are. That uncommon in blue. Whew, looks sweet. I'm going to try it out for sure. Manifestation Sage. It's going to be interesting to see how aggro develops because there can definitely be some aggro cards. That maybe punish these big mana decks. Hopefully. Hopefully it's not just a late game mana slugfest, though that could be interesting. Enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 fractal token, and put counters on it where X is the number of cards in your hand. So if you play this on turn 4, you'll probably have 3 or 4 cards in your hand, so it's a 2/2 and a 4/4 or something. 2/2 and a 3/3. I don't love how this, like, Quandrix kind of makes you want to play extra lands so that you can trigger your stuff that cares about 8 lands, but then this thing doesn't really want you to play lands, so it's a little bit of a tough... I don't know why I moved my hand like that, but it's a little bit of a not necessarily great for you. It, like, puts you in a weird spot. But it definitely could perform. I think it's just a good card. On turn 4, you'll get a 4/4 and like have this as a 2/2. Or maybe a 3/3 and this is a 2/2. So pretty good. Like if you're on the draw, it'll be a little bit bigger. The token you get. Seems good. I wonder if in the control mirrors you'd rather be on the draw so you can hit your 8th land more easily. Prismari command. Deals 2 to any target. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2. Destroy an artifact. Create a treasure token. It's not that good. It's like a 3-mana deal 2, and then you get a minor upside effect, but these are still nice effects to have. So I like it. And it can trigger your Magecraft cards. Keep in mind, every instant triggers Magecraft at instant speed. Quandrix command. Return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand, so it's a bounce spell. Counter an artifact or enchantment. Put 2 counters on a creature at instant speed can be good. So you're almost always going to be bouncing something and putting 2 counters on a creature. Seems reasonable. Pretty solid card. Scroll Wielder. Instant sorceries have lifelink. Nice. I like how they're putting lifelink onto instants and sorceries now. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that. Other than, yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Exile instant sorcery at random from your grave. You may cast it this turn. That's pretty good. You just get free value. Pretty good card. Really nice, powerful effect. Gains you life and gets you card advantage. Rushed Rebirth. Yeah. There was the... That's where it was. It was the Dominaria one. It was the 2 Minotaurs. Yeah. Fire Song and Sunspear. Yeah, I can picture the artwork of them. Jeskai 2-drop Mythic. Oh, right, you're right. That one Jeskai 2-drop Mythic did do it. The one that can, like, copy your spells for 4 mana. Soulfire Grandmaster. Yeah, we're coming to the conclusion together, chat. Good work. So you... When your creature dies, put it on the battlefield. I don't love it because it only really works well if you have a big, expensive creature in play and it's going to die and you have this card in your hand. And if you have small creatures, it doesn't work. But it has some potential. Shadrix. Flying double strike for 2/5 for 5 mana. Already good. Choose 2. Target player creates a 2/1. Nice. Target player draws a card and loses life. So each mode must target a different player. Oh. That's tough. Oh my goodness. He forces you to make the tough choices, Shadrix. At the beginning of combat, you may choose 2. Oh, so you don't have to choose both. It's you may choose 2. Oh, you have to choose 2 or 0. So, if they have no creatures in play, you obviously have them put a counter on each creature, and you probably make a 2/1 or something like that. A lot of the time, I think you're going to want to put a counter on all of your creatures and let them draw a card or make a 2/1. That seems pretty frequently going to be the correct play. Probably give them a 2/1 so they don't draw towards removal for Shadrix. Yeah, putting a counter on all of your creatures every turn is worth the cost. And you can also just choose none of them. I think it's a really cool card. I like it a lot. Command. +3/+3 and gains flying. It's a sorcery. Why are these all sorcery? Why does Silver Quill just do sorcery stuff? Creature card with any two lists from graveyard battlefield. Draws a card and loses a life. You're probably going to choose the last 2 modes a lot of the time. Or you'll just fin the game with this one. It's a lot of powerful effects, so it's probably still a good card. I wish it was instant speed, though. Tanazia Quandrix. This is cool art. I like it. Flying Trample. Double the counters on target creature you control. That could make your shards massive. I mean, your, yeah. Not shards. Your fractals. When it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control equal to the Tannazir's power and toughness. So it works really well with fractals is the thing. It doubles the counters on it. So it like basically makes it twice as big, and then you can give it base power 4/4 of other creatures. So all your creatures can become 4/4s. So it wears counters well itself. That's a bomb. That's really good, especially if you have some fractals. Silver Quill Silencer. Choose a non-land card name. Opponent can cast a spell with the chosen name. They lose 3 life and you draw a card. That's good. Also just a 2-mana 3/2. You can just choose a removal spell that's in their colors or a common that they're probably going to have. Or after you've played game 1, you can just choose a card you know they have multiples of or their removal spell. You probably want to pick their removal spell a lot of the time because then you'll guaranteed get it. You probably want to do it the other way around, Quill, because then you can double the counters on Body of Research on the fractal, right? Is Body of Research the one that makes a fractal for each land? Because you want to play the fractal before you play this so you can double the counters on it. That way, if they kill your Quandrix, you still have a big creature. I think Silver Quill Silencer wants to name a removal spell that can kill it. Try not to get overwhelmed, NCA project. It's a 2-mana 3/2. 2-mana 3/2 is already good and limited. It doesn't need much else to be good. Yeah, white-black 3/2 is already just a good card. 2-mana 3/2 is a lot of power. Hits them for... Yeah, that's just a good card. Like, white-black for a 3/2 would just be a good card baseline, and then it has all gravy. If you can name a card that like makes it awkward for them, even if you hit like 10% of the time, which you'll hit a lot more than that post-board, and once the... Heck yeah, it's a good card. 2-mana 2/2 is like the baseline. But yeah, once you start, like, if you're playing a sideboarded game, you'll be able to name a card that you've seen in game 1 that was a removal spell that was, like, cheap. So you might keep them off of casting that for a while. And if you ever trigger this, you just get such an advantage that it's, like, even though it's not going to happen all that often, when it does, you just are in such a good spot. Or you could name, like, one of their... Like, if they played 2 copies of the same 3-drop or something, and you can name that, you can just hose them. Because if they have that card in their hand, they're not going to want to play it. I think it's really good. It's pretty good, at least. It's better in best of 3 where you can see more of their deck, I think. But it's still pretty good. Vanishing Verse. Exile target monocolored permanent. There's a lot of gold cards in this set. All of the tokens are multicolored. So this card's probably a little bit worse than it looks. But it's still going to be pretty reasonable. There's still going to be monocolored cards. Velomachus Lorehold. I like Lorehold. Lorehold is such a cool... like concept for Boros. 7 mana, 5/5 flying vigilance haste. Have been giving what card a low grade? The Vanishing Verse. I mean, it doesn't hit a lot of the cards you care about. Silencer. It's still just a good card. 2 mana 3/2 is already good, as I've been saying. And then if it hits anything, it's nice. It's going to take a lot of skill to use, and it's going to be better in best of 3, I will say it, by a decent margin. Because if you're playing on turn 2 on the play, you need to be able to have some like semblance of something you can name. So if you're playing best of 3, you have more idea of what's in your opponent's deck. What does the text on Velomachus have? Top 7, you may cast an instant or sorcery with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus' power. So you can cast a 5-drop or less without paying its cost. That is such a sick card. And you just get to do that immediately because it has haste. This card's a heck of a bomb. I love it. I'm so excited to cast it. You just go, boom, attack, cast my 4-drop removal spell, boom, kill your guy. Next turn, attack, you're dead. Because I did 10 to you. But theoretically, you could just keep triggering it and triggering it and triggering it. You almost want your opponent to be at 30 life so you can slowly crush them. I think Lorehold is growing on me as like such a dope guild / school. Ugh. I used to think I was a diehard Quandrix. Maybe not diehard. I kind of like a lot of the guilds. But Lorehold is growing on me. It grows in power. Lorehold hype. I mean, Lorehold also has Quantorius or Quantarius. What's the elephant's name? Quan something. Quantorius, I think. Quintorius. Something like that. So Lorehold has a lot of my favorite. Quintorius, there we go. Gotta love Quintorius and Velomachus. Venerable War Singer. 3 mana, 3/3 Vigilance Trample. Okay. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature with confirmed extra life from your graveyard to the battlefield. or X the amount of damage. So even if it gets chump blocked, you can still return something. And you can return a 3-drop if you are uncontested and has Vigilance. That's just a good card. 3 mana, 3/3 Vigilance Trample with extra value tacked on. Witherbloom Command, mills 3. Then return a land, so it's like a little bit of value there. Gets a card, mana at least. Non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less, so it kills something small. Shrink something or kill something a little bit bigger, but that has 1 toughness. Or you can finish them off. I mean, just the modality still makes this a good card, even though all of these are pretty low value. You just get to choose 2. So you get to like draw a land, kill a small creature, still a good card. So I like it still. Wow, seeing Velomachus makes me just really want to cast Velomachus and hit a 5-drop removal spell. I'm really excited to play Lorehold. A lot of these Lorehold rares. Oh, imagine hitting Lorehold command off of Velomachus. Oh, Velomachus. Marcus. I'm saying it like it's Marcus or something. Quintorius. Okay, so there's only 3 more cards and a couple lands. 2 more cards and a couple lands. Interesting. Cody, Vociferous Codex. You can't cast permanent spells. Well, that's hilarious. And Wooburg. When you cast your next spell this turn, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an instant sorcery with lesser mana value. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put each other card exiled this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it ramps you by 1 mana. Oh, it's a 1/4 too. I thought this was like a mana rock. But it's pay 4, tap it to add 5, and when you cast it, you get to Cascade. So it only ramps you 1 mana. It's a 1/4, but if it doesn't die, you just get locked out of casting stuff. This seems bad to me. It seems horrific, actually. You can't play this card. It's an F. You can't build a deck with no permanents. If you do, it would be sick, though. You just have like a bunch of the big tokens from... But like no permanent spells. It's pretty cool with like the tokens from like the big Izzet cards. Strixhaven Stadium. I'd put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. This looks a lot like Quidditch. Or I guess maybe not. It's hard to see with this art size. And maybe not. Doesn't look like Quidditch all that much. There's like a big tall thing. Strixhaven Stadium. So it's an artifact. 3 mana. Put a point. Add mana. So you get the mana. Don't hide that. No, because you only cascade instants or sorceries until you exile an instant or sorcery card. Yeah. And you couldn't cast it anyway because you're not allowed to cast it. Put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. So you add a mana, put a point counter. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from the stadium. Okay. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, put a point counter on it. Then if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all, and that player loses the game. Oh my gosh, that is sick. So it's basically like if you start hitting them with your creatures, then you get point counters, and if they hit you, then you lose point counters. So basically it's a 3 mana rock. It's not that good. Because by the time you get hit by 10 creatures, you're already dead. And if you hit them with 10 creatures, they're already dead. So it doesn't really win you the game ever, but it's sweet. It's just not a good card, though. It's unplayable and limited, I'm pretty sure. 3 mana to make a colorless mana rock is just not good. Oh, you get a point counter for tapping it. Never mind, that's much better than I thought it was. Okay. I know everyone was probably screaming at me. This is my first time reading the card. You put a point counter on every time you tap it for mana. So you just need to tap this 10 times and not be hit by your opponents. So it can be a board stall win condition. Or when you hit them. And you lose counters when you're hit. Yeah, I know. But you also gain counters when you hit them. It's going to be fun to try out, at least. I don't think it's very good, but it's not going to happen really ever where you win the game with this, but it's going to be sweet. The Biblioplex. Colorless mana. Look at the top card of your library. If it's an instant sorcery, you can be able to put it in your hand. Ooh, card draw. And you can put it in the graveyard if you don't want it. Activate this only if you have exactly 0 or 7 cards in your hand. So it's like a Library of Alexandria type deal. But you have to pay mana to activate it. And it only works with 0 or 7. So 0 is nice. And you can get rid of the card. This is probably worth playing as like an 18th land, because if you get down to 0 cards in hand, it can win you the game, and having lands that are that powerful is nice. So I could see Quandrix wanting it. Maybe the decks, maybe Lorehold wanting it too. I could see multiple decks wanting it. Is Velomachus like on top of the Biblioplex in this picture? Seems pretty good with Cody. So the Snarl. So there's 5 Snarls, so I'll just read one of them. They are for all of the school colors. You may reveal an island or mountain from your hand. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. So this is like the same cycle from Shadows over Innistrad. I think it was Port Town, Game Trail. Those are the only 2 I remember. Game Trail was red, green. Port Town was white, blue. And there was Fortified Village, which was green, white. What are the other 2? Ooh, then there was a black-red one called Foreboding Ruins. Oh, what's the last one? Oh my gosh, I can remember this. I can just ace the final here. There's a blue-black one. There's a blue-black one. It's called, Foreboding Ruins might be the blue-black one. Oh no, don't tell me, chat. Don't tell me. I'm not looking. There's a blue-black one called Sunken something, maybe? I think the Foreboding Ruins one is the black-red one. Forbidden Ruins, maybe. Oh my gosh, what's the blue-black one called? Choked Estuary, I think. Let's see. Boom! Let's go! I am a beast! Forbidden... No, Foreboding Ruins. I was right the first time. No, what's it called? No! Did I forget one of their names? It's red-black for that thing. Oh, I forgot the E. Yeah, Foreboding Ruins. Yes, I did get them. Let's go. I said Foreboding first, and then I said Forbidden, but Foreboding. I definitely got that. I'm very proud of myself. Let's go. Remembering Choked Estuary like an absolute boss. Let's go. These cards, they were okay in standard. They weren't great even, but they're like okay in limited. They're worse than the tap lands that can scry, I think. Hall of Oracles. Add 1 mana of any color. Put a counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. That's still really good. There's a lot of instants and sorceries, and being able to put counters on your creatures with your lands is really good. This is a really good land. I like it. It's actually worse with Triumphs than you'd think, because if you play this untapped on turn 1, then it means you're not playing your Triumph tapped on turn 1. So then all of a sudden you don't get to play your Triumph. So it's worse than it looks. Hey, AJ. So yeah, that's all of the rares and mythics for Strixhaven. Definitely some sweet ones in there. I'm excited to cast some Elder Dragons, some Harness Infinities, some of the commands. This card's awesome. There's a lot of really cool cards in here to try out, and it's going to be a really fun set. If you have been watching part 1 and part 2 of where I did the commons and then the uncommons, if you haven't watched those, check those out. I posted those onto YouTube already. And let me know what you thought. Which card is your favorite card in the set? Which card is your favorite in the rares and mythics? And which school are you most excited to draft? Gotta be said, I'm pretty excited to draft the Lorehaven Guild. It's looking pretty neat to try out. I mean, Lorehold, because I mean Boros doesn't often play control, but it's going to be a lot of fun to try out Boros control. It's a cool deck. Also, like, there's a lot of big mana stuff. I'm excited for that. And even White-Black has some cool things going on, it looks like, with their Inklings and things of that nature. So I'm really excited for this set. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you want to get more of my content for the set, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you get notified when I post future videos. It's free to subscribe on YouTube, and it is always appreciated. And helps me, helps the channel grow and all that good stuff. So do that if you want to get more Strixhaven content your way. Also check out parts 1 and part 2 of my first impressions of the cards. You can also hit that thumbs up button. It's also free to do. It just lets other people know that you like the video, lets YouTube know you like the video, and lets me know that you like the video, lets me know that you like me making more of this sort of video in the future and that sort of thing. Also, comment with your questions, thoughts, and feedback. I do enjoy talking about these cards. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear it, or even if you agree with me, I'd love to hear it. Or Also, just anything you want to say. It's always fun to read those comments. And if you would like to support my content directly and gain access to a more regimented form of these like card evaluations, you can support my content via Patreon, patreon.com/NicolaiBolas. It will be linked via the description. And I am not the guy that plays Miguel on Cobra Kai. I get that a lot, though. It's not your fault. It's a hilarious coincidence. But if you do support me on Patreon, you can gain access to my card-by-card grade spreadsheet. And that's going to have all of the cards graded on an A through F scale in a spreadsheet form that you can look for. So if you would like to support my content and gain access to that at the same time, Patreon's a place you can go. Check it out. It is one of the reward tiers. One of the low reward tiers. So it's like $2 a month. So it's pretty reasonable there for helping me out making these videos and all that good stuff. You can also find the Twitch stream at twitch.tv/NicolaiBolas. You can also find the free NicolaiBolas Discord server linked in the description and pinned comment below the video. But yeah, that's going to do it for the video. If you made it all the way to the end, in the comment section down below, leave hashtag I don't know, hashtag rares tech, hashtag text overload, because there's a lot of text on these rares, or hashtag lore hold best hold. And also, if you did make it all the way to the very end of this, I will finish with this small story about why people think I'm Miguel from Cobra Kai. Basically, Miguel from Cobra Kai auto hosts my Twitch stream. So people go to his like Instagram page, click on it, and then it sends them to his Twitch stream, but then he auto hosts my Twitch stream, so it sends them straight to me with no explanation. And it's people who aren't super familiar with Twitch, and so people think that I'm Miguel from Cobra Kai sometimes, which is really funny. So if you made it all the way to the end of this little story, leave hashtag Miguel to let me know you made it all the way to the end of the mini story. But that is going to do it for this stream. Not this stream, this YouTube video. Jeez. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time.